Welcome back to our GoodX webinar. Again, my name is Pierre. I will be doing the training for today. We just quickly had a technical issue with our previous session, our introduction. So I'm just going to quickly recap on a quick few points for this video before we start with the appointments and diary. Like I said, this is our standard desktop application for our GoodX software, and we're going to cover today our critical functions and diary mid-steps, as we call it, our fundamental training that covers everything from the appointment to the basic report. That includes opening the files, the billing, the claims, the receipts, corrections, and journals, and everything around it. So let's see from here. Like I said, we just had a we had a problem with our first session, our introduction. So I'm just going to repeat just quickly this for the guys that's just logged into the webinar now. To access your learning center, you type in the learning.goodx.co.za. Please make sure you get your username and password from your GoodX personnel, or your FCL, or the admin people that sent you in all the possible information when you started with the system. From the Learning Center at GoodX.za, you will see here our manuals. It looks like books on a shelf. On the right hand side, you will see the information about future webinars and everything around it, and also our unlimited free fundamental practice management training here at our GoodX facilities. So please, if you can attend, let us know so we can book it for you and everything around that. So for this, as you can see, these are my manuals. The ones on the left is for our web application, so this is not for the training for today. The ones on the right, blue ones, is for today's training. So we will be focusing on the critical functions and diary mid-steps. There's also a glossary. The glossary is all the terminology in our system. So what is the certain terms and what they mean and the words, so you can just make sure when you're coming from other systems that we talk the same language at the end of the day. Guidelines is a very handy printout that you can do, or a guideline that you can read through manual. This is why we do this in GoodX, so it's very, very important you can go through this. And you will see there's again our web application, there's our desktop application. Once you open up the desktop application, you will see here the online learning center, GoodX support and login details, GoodX trade webinars, appointments, and for instance here, the purpose of appointments, critical steps of appointments, new data, patient information, existing data, manage patient bookings, manage other type of appointments. This is a structure where we just explain to you why you need to do this and what you need to focus on and what is important for you to do what you need to do. From reception point of view, just look at your appointments and diary administration, the doctors or the admin people doing the billing, look at your billing. There's some rules in there, the clinical information for doctors, the billing, corrections, claim placement, receipt, and why are you doing this? So here we explain certain issues and scenarios that you need to be aware of before you start working. At any time you can print your book if you want to read through it in that sense. For the training, we go through the critical function and diary mid-steps for today. So this is our base that we will follow. So once we click on that, we will see here's the flow, and as like I said before in the previous session, we will start with appointments and run through this flow up till where the patient walks out with his account that is 0. The ultimate goal is to make sure all our accounts are 0, and our biggest process we want to focus on is here to make sure that the claims is being received by the medical aids and are getting paid. And that's very important. You can just not assume that the medical aids receive your claims. You cannot assume that the medical aids will pay everything that you send to them. You must follow up. And this claim administration is so important. This is a very big focus for anybody in the system, especially when you start new with your practice. Make sure you understand how your claims work with the medical aids and how to follow up. There's no system that can do this for you in 100% detail. You need to follow up. Introduction to GoodX. This was in our previous session that we had technical issues. I'm not going through all these steps. Just make sure you understand how to log into your system. But please, again, how to request support from GoodX. That's very important. That's the automatic ticket system sent and mailed to help@goodx.co.za. Please make sure that you understand how support structures work. Yes, you can pick up the phone and talk at any time to your assigned first client liaison, or FCL as we call them. Okay, so now we can actually start then with the actual training for today, and that is when for my medical debts and what we call our diary and debts, medical debtors. And I'm going to show you then how I'm logging into the system, and how I assign my username and password, or how do I log in with my username and password, and then how do I access the system then from there, and how do I get to the appointments as quickly as possible so that we can look at book new patients and existing patients, and start the process and work from there through the system. So this session will work from book new appointment up to the point of my diary administration, and then we're going to take another break for our basic clinical information, so that we can go and focus on that session then a bit later. The session will run more or less up to 11 o'clock, where we'll then after that start then with our clinical our clinical information that starts usually at 11 to 12. It just depends on how we're going to focus in that session. Of course, our clinical system here is not as strong as our web application. If you want to focus on very strong clinical features, please look at our web application that is specifically designed for very strong and advanced clinical functionality. So the clinical functions we're going to cover today is very basic. So the doctor can do is very basic clinical features on the system, the current desktop app that we use for that we call our standard GoodX. And then after that, we will break into our billing and look at our corrections, claim administration, receipts, receipt corrections, debt management, up to the point where I print my 2 basic reports, my data drill down, and my age analysis. Okay, but let's start at the top again here, and we go to appointments. So I'm going to first show you how do I log into the system. So we understand by now you will have received your username and password for your learning center, but also GoodX would have installed the cloud system on your computer with an RDP connection. That's also a saved username and password. So please just keep that in mind, that if you for some reason can't log in, immediately contact our technical support so they can assist you to log onto your system as soon as possible. Otherwise, log all your queries again to your FCL as soon as possible. Okay, so once you log into the system, you will see a blue X or GoodX, and you will double click on that X. It will open up, and then you will have your company. That is your entity for the guys that work with a GP, a dentist, a physio, like our Intercare's HealthWorks. There could be multiple entities involved here, so there could be multiple doctors that's running from the same system. Then you will have a list of your username. Select your user and put in your password. You can change your password at any time, and you can also default this so that if you work on a specific station every day, it will always be the same practice with the same user like reception that logs in at that moment. Also, there is a date here that you can see, the 7th of the 5th. Please make sure this is the same as your computer date at the bottom right corner. This is your transaction date, and in GoodX we always look at 3 different dates. We talk about your transaction date. That is your date of service or your capture date. So actually this date here on this login is actually today's date. This will be your capture date. But if you're working with your patients also as your date of service, that the patients come in today, this is your date of service as well. But it's very important you understand the difference between the two, because we can draw reports in different ways, especially on your transaction date and your capture date. Capture date is everything you do today, doesn't matter when the patient was here. Your transaction date is when the patient was actually being consulted or treated by the doctor or nurse. Okay, so you will select your information, put in your password, and then you click on OK, and you will log in. Also, you will see at the bottom here, there's a version 8.0, that's your version. So anytime if GoodX FCL asks you what current version you're on, you will see this also from your navigator. And then I will log in and I click on OK. Then you will see your navigator, as we call this. Now this stays open the whole day. You will only close this by pressing the red X when you go home, because from here I can access the different modules in GoodX depending on what you have signed up for. So our medical debts, medical debtors, our patients, our claims, our all the training for today will happen on our med debts and our diary, but for this training we'll focus 90% of the time on our diary. All possible functions will happen from this diary. I will start my process here. That's that wheel that we talked about in the Learning Center, where we look at everything starts from appointment, going right through to the point where I can collect the money from the patient and make sure the account is zero. Can be generated from the diary. Certain corrections, certain reports will obviously be generated from the medical data, the med-deps. Okay, so from this navigator, as we call it, you will see med-deps and diaries. Our focus will be today on this diary. There's also a cash register for the practices that work with cash ups, where there's a lot of cash and card payments. And then you will have your financial module, your stock module, your creditors, and our managed. The financial module, this you will also see in that Learning Center, is we are a fully financial integrated system. That's our backbone as a financial system. We started in the corporate industry, and that's why we moved into the medical industry many years ago. So once you want to work with the full financial side, please let us know. This is basically by using Pastel, but you use this in GoodX. Financial reports will generate the necessary reports. If you are a GP practice, a nurse practice, dispensaries, hospitals, subacute facilities, clinics, then stock management is very important, and this is where we will manage the stock. But when you log in, you will only most probably see med-deps and diary, depending on your access, and your user will be connected to access. So we and the practice manager or the doctor, the owner of the practice, will decide what access you will have and what you can do and what you can't do, and your login with your username will determine what information you will see. So, and also at any time we keep logs of what the user that logged in is doing and what they have done currently on any patient or on this system. Okay, so for this training, we're going to focus today on the diary, like I said. And we're going to start then with our appointments, and we're going to run through the process of a patient coming into the practice. We're going to make appointments, and we usually focus on two types of patients. We've got an existing patient, we've got a new patient. So we're going to focus on how do I open up that patient, and then we're going to look up, okay, so if I open up the file, the core here is to make sure that I can import their files from the medical aid. So please make sure that you understand that you can validate from the medical aid at any time, because you're a live system in that sense, and we can validate our medical aid information membership numbers with the medical aids, and with most medical aids like GEMS and Discovery and the med schemes and some of the smaller ones, we can actually import the information from the medical aid. So reception should know that they should always, when a patient walks in that door, they should import, validate. They must validate the patient's information. Are they still active? Are they still valid members on that medical aid? Are they still dependents? Are new dependents are being added, new children, new babies, or divorced and remarried families? So all that information must be loaded again into the system. You can just simply click a few buttons and it's imported from the medical aids. Why do I need to open everything manually if I can just simply get it electronically from our medical aids? So to open up these modules, as we call them in GoodX, from the navigator, I just simply double click, for instance, under diary. Then it will let you log in. I just need to log in with my username again from a GoodX personnel perspective. You will first see your task list, and we will cover this also a bit further. But this is a very handy tool for anyone in GoodX, the doctor, the reception, the admin people, because this is more or less like a sticky note, a piece of paper that you put onto your table to remind us something you need to do. And I will cover this a bit later when we look at the date management, where we actually look at the accounts. The task looks very handy, but this will pop up every time you log into GoodX. And then you just simply close that screen and the diary will open up. So again, I can switch this to the navigator and I can open up a second diary or a second med-deps. So here you can, that's why we keep the navigator open, so you can have that flexibility of opening multiple modules. The reason for this is while I'm busy opening a file in the diary, the telephone rings at a reception point of view, and I need to do a query on an account. Now I'm locked in the opening of the file, I can't do anything. And now I must tell the patient, please phone later. So no, you don't need to do that. You just simply make sure in the morning you open up your 2 diaries or 3 diaries, depending how many doctors you have in your practice. And you can just simply jump between the different diaries. The same with the med-deps or the admin people. So the moment you're doing your your accounts, or you send out statements, or check the billing, or doing your claims. At any stage, you can just jump between two different diaries or MedEps and quickly access different doctors at the same time. So for now, I'm on Dr. Nemo, for instance, on this, and on this one, I'm currently in Dr. GP. So I can quickly just move between the different diaries as necessary. Okay, so now let's just look at the diary, just a quick overview before we start with the appointments. As you can see, it opens up, and what you will typically see is a grid. And as you select on this grid here, it will highlight it for you in blue, as you can see, and the grid is also set up in a time slots, as we call it, and we start from 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock, depending on how the practice operates, down to when the practice actually closes. This can be set up for different days, so Saturdays, Sundays can also be set up for half days, depending on how you work. If there's a doctor that's a specialist with theatres, the same principle apply. You just let us know how the day should work, and also how long the time slot should be. So as you can see, a typical consultation doctor or practice will be set up for 15 minutes time slots, but this can also be set up to 20 minutes or 50 minutes, depending on how you want to operate. Our idea is here to say we always work with the minimum possible time, because we rather extend the time. We cannot break a time slot into smaller pieces. Okay, so the idea is we work on a minimum possible time, and we rather extend the appointment to an hour by adding 3 15-minute slots as we go along. Now, as you can see, this is the grid that I'm currently clicking on. Then at the top there is menus with all the possible functionalities in it. I will obviously go through it as we go through during the course of the day. And then here in the middle is my doctor selection. Now this is very important. So here I can select my different doctors' diaries. So if I've got 5 doctors, a physio and a dentist, I can just simply select him out of the list. But typically this will only be GP, so there could be 5 or 4 or 3 or 2 GPs. And every GP will have their own diary. Of course, the time is booked for every patient as they walk in. If there is a walk-in practice involved, then we just load one diary, and then multiple doctors can be booked on that one diary. So please make sure you select first your doctor. Once I selected the doctor, then I can look at my calendar. So here I can select the actual time that I want to work, and the day I want to work on, and the weeks and the month. So here I can go back or forward as necessary, and here we'll see little blue arrows that says next day and previous day. So I can quickly go to tomorrow, to the next day, to the next day, or back. And I can always click on now to bring me back to today at the current time we're currently at, and that's more or less already at 10. So this is how I quickly just view my diary. I can change my doctors, I can select my different dates, weeks, months. I can move forward or back depending on what I want to do. I can click on exit, and I can click on now. So now brings me always back to today. Now at least I know how to quickly move my dates, so I can jump around, select my different doctors, and move between different dates. There's a lot of other buttons here as well, and as we go along through this training session, I will discuss all these functionalities as we move along. So this is very important to make sure that GoodX has set up your diary correctly. So make sure from your FCL that all possible doctors is loaded, even locums, even nurses, even procedure rooms. So it just depends on how you work, and please let us know if that is required. And it's set up dentists, also your oral hygienists, and as required, just load it as necessary. Yes, at any stage we can print a diary as well, but I will get that to the diary administration when we talk about these functions as well. Then on the right hand side there's also a sidebar, and I will also explain that functionality as we move along through this. Now as you just look here, there's for instance a booking being made already, and that's how the booking more or less might look like. And I'm going to discuss now the process of booking new patients and existing patients, and go through the process of a patient walking into the practice. So usually we start with the bookings, and as the patient moves into the practice we talk about arrive. So that's to show the doctor that the patient and reception patient is here, and then we go to the patient is being treated to show that the patient has been treated by the doctor or the nurse or the treating provider, and the patient has left the practice. So there's usually a flow in GoodX. A patient is booked, then a patient is arrived, and then a patient is treated. So we've got the 3 phases. A patient moves through into the practice, and it starts with the booking, then is arrived, and then we end up with treated. As you can see, this patient currently is already or has been treated already, and I'm going to show you now the process on how to get to here. But let's just first look quickly again at that learning center. As you can see, there's logging into the GoodX, and now we're going to look at these appointments. We're going to look at book new patients, existing patients. We're going to arrive those patients. We're going to open up new files. We're going to add dependents. We're going to extend, cancel, move our appointments. We're going to copy it. We're going to book a range of appointments. In other words, a doctor's lunch, or theatre, or hospital rounds, and that kind of information via the range of appointments and other appointments. Our emergencies, theatre bookings, patient validation, dependent data benefits checks, and that's a very important part. I'm actually going to look at this very much during the course of this new and in this hour, and edit my patient information, and then we move also over directly into my diary administration and see what possible other functionalities you will have on this diary. So from this manual on our Learning Center of GoodX.za, so if you click on Book New Patient, will actually open up a pop-up, and it will show you business requirement. This function is used when a patient who does not have an electronic file on the software system wants to make an appointment. So here we explain to you why we need to do this and what is the possible reasons behind this process. And then we show you from this point on in the manual how to do this. So here you can actually see print screens and step-by-step guide on what you need to do to make these appointments. And this is how you can go through this manual. You just close it again, then you go to book existing patient, same process, and we'll explain to you what is the business requirement around this, so why are you doing this, what is important about this process, and then we explain to you step by step how you need to open up this, and how you need to book this, and how you need to click, and where you need to click, and we even show you the actual screens on this. You're also, remember, more than welcome to switch to our YouTube channel, and anytime here also look at our appointments and diary administration webinar, so you can also see an actual session on this with the manual to help you work on your GoodX system. Okay, so let's start our process. Just want to switch back to my system. I'm going to book now a patient, for instance, at 9 o'clock. So how do I access these functions in GoodX? I manage my whole process from the diary system via my right click. So if I select 9 o'clock, my right click, I can say book patient or new patient. So my book patient function at the top, that's for my existing patients. So the patient already have a file in GoodX. So it's already been here, and you just want to call up his file again out of the system. New patient, never been here before, so you need to open up his file on this system. So then I will use the new patient function. The same with the walk-ins, book walk-in and a new walk-in patient, same principle. That's for our walk-in patients. No booking was made. Patient walks into in the door at reception and asks to see the doctor. So if you're a walk-in practice, that's more or less what you most probably will be using. Otherwise, this is for our scenarios where a patient does walk in and asks to see the doctor and willingly wants to sit and wait to see the doctor. Otherwise, you're just simply booking for late in the other day or for the next day. Okay, so how do I book a new patient? Right click, new patient, and I left click on that. It opens up patient's name, and here I will, for instance, put in the patient's name. I will put in surname, and I press tab to move from the one field to the next field. Telephone number, cell phone number at least. Why? So that I can send SMSs to my patient. So I need his name, I need his surname, I need his cell phone number. And that's what I need from the patient at least to start the booking process. Anything else can be acquired, but remember, the phone is ringing, you pick up the phone, and the patient's information has been given to you over the phone. So it depends on what you need, you fill it in. You don't need to fill in all the fields, fill in the required fields. I need a name, I need a surname, I need a patient. The required fields in GoodX is the service center and the appointment type, and I will get to that now. So once I've done that, I can actually just click on OK and save the booking. So by just clicking on OK, and the booking is made, and at any time I can just right click on the next time slot, new patient again, and see, okay, this is Peter Witter, and cell phone number again, I fill it in, email address, refer to doctor, ID numbers, date of birth, dependent, member details, ID of the member, medical scheme. I can fill this in if I want to, but it's not necessary. Of course, remember the patient's still on the phone. He's anyway going to fill in a form or fill in the file electronically later when it gets to your office. Service center must be filled in. This must be rooms if the patient has been seen in the rooms, for consultations, follow-ups, small procedures. Otherwise, it will be hospitals or day clinics or theatre if you are doing theatre or seeing the patient in the actual hospital for consultations there. And remember, the service center is very important because that can also trigger different rates depending on your patient's plan that is on. Appointment type. This can be set up by you as a practice yourself. Here you can see, I can see a standard appointment, a pre-assessment, a first consult, insurance, a WCA. You can extend this, and also colors can be assigned to this. So once I book up a follow patient, it will show on the diary with a different color in the one part of my booking structure. And then the reason of why the patient is coming in, it's for flu, it's for neck pain, it just depends if you want to put that information. Obviously the privacy of the patient is very important, so do not put in something if it's not required. But also this is free text, so I can also say here waiting for x-ray, or patient very allergic. So it is a text field, you can fill in whatever you want and what is required, and you can change this information also later during the course of the day as you need it. So this is also a nice tool between the doctor and reception to show quick messages and any other information. And then I just simply click on OK, and the patient will be booked. And as you can see, my follow-up now will have a different color. Also, the diary works with different colors. As you can see, my new patient booking is now a pink color, for instance, and the color scheme will decide how this will work. We obviously do have a default, but you're more than welcome to adjust this in your practice. But remember, this will be for all the doctors, for all the users. Okay, so that's new patient bookings. It should be very simple. You just go to a specific time, right click, new patient, fill in all the possible information required, but at least a name and a surname, and then your cell phone number. Why the cell phone number? It's so that I can send out SMSs if my patient is not running late, and obviously for the nice feature also in GoodX from a diary to send out SMS reminders for the patient's appointments. So that's why I would like to do that. And if I'm going to start using email addresses, then we can also send out sync bytes, and that's for our Migrant Central. So I will get to that also a bit later, and that is to make sure that my patient can actually register online on a Migrant Central website, and I can just simply import his information the next morning when he comes in. So that is very helpful for the patients that want to sit at home or at your receptions working on a MyGC kiosk, as we call it, and fill in all their possible details, and we just simply import it into the GoodX system. So name, surname, cell phone number, and at least the service center must be selected, and the type of appointment and the reason why the patient is coming in to see the doctor. And I just simply click on OK, and as you can see, I will just make booking. So reception should be able to make a booking within a few seconds, because all we need is a name, a surname, and a cell phone number, and the reason is to book out the time. So that if a patient phones in, I can just quickly go to tomorrow, and she can let her know, yes, patient coming in tomorrow, and I say new patient, put in a name, put in a surname, put in a cell phone number, and say OK. And as you can see, the system will warn you if certain fields are required. And it should take her 5 clicks to just quickly book a patient. So now I can just click on now again and I come back to today. So there's new patients been loaded. They are not here yet. They will come in tomorrow or during the course of the day. And as they walk into the practice, I will start booking their, fill in their information. Of course, I've made a booking already. So that is my existing patients or new patients, sorry. So that's book new patients, so book existing patients. Same principle here in that sense. I am right clicking on a specific time. Again, telephone rings, patient phone says, listen, I want to book my patient for a booking for my doctor. I ask for a specific time, I go to book patients, and then the moment I click on book patient, it will actually bring up what we call the member admittance screen, the data screen, the patient screen. It depends on how you want to look at this, but we call it the admittance screen, for instance. And as you can see, this is a list of all your files in the system. So from here you will see it in the different columns: account number, file number, surnames, initials, medical aid, membership number, address, the current balance, and even the ID numbers. And when you scroll to the right, if you're on version number 8, you will see much more information as well, depending on how and what it's loaded. You can rearrange these columns in any order you would like for you to make more sense of how this would like, and then you can save it for your user. So the screen is usually in 3 parts. The top part is my search. As you can see, account number, surname, file number, medical aid, ID number, and medical aid membership number, and advanced search. So these functions, account number, surname, all of these are under main member. And the right hand side with the advanced search, I can actually look up directly under patient. So always in GoodX, we look at the main member first. So when we open a file, we always open up the main member first, and then we add the patients or the dependents as under medical aid. So in typical GP or consultation scenarios, dentists, physios, or nursing practices, we always load the full family, the full membership, the member with all its dependents. Okay, so as I click on it, as you can see, and in the middle part is actually our members details, and at the bottom part you will actually see your patient or dependents as on that medical aid. So as you move along, you will see different family members, and you will see all their details: basic name, basic patient details, date of birth, dependent number as under membership card. So this information is solely we get this from the medical aids, or you will obviously open up a file manually. That's a typical private patient. Doesn't matter whether it's cash or doesn't have a medical aid file, it's a private patient, and all other patients will then be medical aid patients with a medical aid. Okay, so if I'm looking here for someone specifically, then I can type in the username, the surname, and then I will find, okay, there's Moledi. Now I can see, okay, so I've got 5 different Moledis. Which one is coming in? Is this Peter? Is this John? And I can select the right file with the right patient. So Sarah is coming in for my appointment, so I select Sarah, I click on OK, and then it will ask me, why is the patient coming in again? Here I can specify flu or something like that. Select my rooms. Appointment type is again a standard appointment, and I can just simply click on OK. So that's an existing patient that has been booked. So here I can immediately see it's a standard patient, and the color is also different from the pink because this is an existing patient. And I can see what is outstanding: total, medical aid, patient, who's the member, who's the patient. Patient is also booked, so I like just to put that into there. Patient is booked as a standard patient, and I can see their details, and there's an outstanding amount also on the account. So book another existing patient, right click, book patient, search them under system. Okay, who is this? This is Peter, and I say okay, and the reason why they are coming in again in rooms, and this is a follow-up, and okay, and as you can see it will use the same green color for the follow-up, but it's a different green color to show it's an existing file. How do I also pick up this existing file? There's a DEB number, your GoodX account number is there, DB27, DB200 for instance, or file number 32132. So I know this patient does have a file. Also, the outstanding column with new patients will be blank, but with an existing patient there will be an amount outstanding, or just zeros if the account is currently. So that's a new patient, right click new patient, and that's an existing patient, right click book patient. So the patients are still booked, they're not here yet, so we're still waiting for them to come into the practice. And this is where we go over to the status that we see that the patient has been arrived. So first they are booked, and here I can see the appointment status, new patient booked, and we want to get to the next phase where we actually arrive these patients. But just let's quickly go and look at my manual again. So we're now going to look at existing patients, arrive existing patients, and I'm quickly also going to cover just the quick walk-ins. There's a walk-in emergency there as well, but I'm just going to cover them here while we do this already. So what is a walk-in patient? So it's the same process as booking. A patient walks in, did not make an appointment, so I right click and I say book walk-in patient, and immediately it will open up again my files because this is an existing patient. Just quickly want to see if you can see doctor, and I say okay, Sarah again is my patient, and I put in again the time, standard appointment type, service center, and the reason. And when I click OK, it will book it on 10/16. So why on 10/16? So it created an actual time slot for this walk-in patient, and the system will look at your time because it's 10:15. It cannot duplicate 10:15, so it immediately created 10:16, and the patient's already on arrived status because he's already standing in front of reception, so it's already there. So when I use the walk-in function, it means I'm actually telling GoodX and I'm telling the doctors that the patient is already standing here. It does not matter where I'm going to see him now or not. He will just simply sit and wait until all the other patient has been booked, gets priority over this patient, unless this is of course an emergency. So a new patient, same scenario, I right click and I say new walk-in patient. It will also open up the name and surname. I put in cell phone number, and if the cell phone number does not make sense, the system will tell you it needs a few characters. Again, I need to specify the rooms or hospital, and like I said before, this is also standard advisory coming in, and you put in your reasons or you leave it blank. Then I click on OK. Same scenario, it's booked on 10/17, and as you can see, the walk-in patient, this in this scenario will have the same color, but you can also decide what colors it must show. So now I've got my new patients booked, I've got existing patients booked, and I've got already walk-in patients booked. And the walk-in patients I can see with the time slots, they create their own time slots, and that little man there also tells me it's a walk-in patient. And it will also say patient arrived, a new patient arrived. So now how do I arrive my other patients in the system? If I look at an existing one, that's easy. I do not want to arrive a new patient right now because then I also need to open his file. But let's just do an existing one first, and then I will move over to a new patient arrival. So I'm going to right click on my existing patient and I'm going to say arrive. So again, I right click on my bookings. And the moment I right click on my booking, the pop-up menu will take place, and the system will show you the functions you can access, and the ones you cannot use will be grayed out. So in the function I'm looking here for, so we look now at book patients, and you see arrive was grayed out, but the moment I click on my book patient, I right click now my bookings are grayed out, my arrive is available. So now I just simply click on arrive, and the system will bring up this file, and it will focus on Moledi, because we want to make sure that this is the right file that you have booked. So reception double checks this, yes, I've got the right file. She confirms who is the patient. Is this Peter? Is this Sarah? Who is actually standing now at reception? I have booked Sarah, but now it's not Sarah. Sarah actually made the appointment for Peter or for the children. So I select Peter, who's the patient, and I then click OK. The system will warn you that you have booked it, and on Sarah, But Sarah is going to change now to Peter. Do we need to continue? And you say yes, and you will see the system will then update it as necessary. Okay, so that's how I arrive, and again then the system should change the colors the moment I arrive a patient, just depending on how it was set up, and it should then update that, and a status should arrive, and it should say now Peter Moledi is now arrived. Also, the diary has been used by the doctor on his computer, so the moment this happens, the color will change on the doctor side, and the doctor knows the patient is available. So if I look at currently this diary, those 2 patients are not here yet, but we've got already 3 people sit and waiting for doctor. So he can decide to maybe come and start consulting with Moledi until those patients that were booked comes into the practice, and the moment we arrive, then their color will change. So a patient is booked. The moment he walks into reception, we arrive. Color changes, and the doctor's diary will also change. Remember, the doctor, we can set up your refresh rate in any room, and reception. The smaller the refresh rate, the more accurate the system will be. If it's set up in 1 hour, you will not see the color change unless you do something on the diary. So always, if you're not sure, click on the refresh and make sure the diary updates with the necessary movements and colors and statuses. Okay, so now how do I arrive a new patient? The same principle. I just simply right click on a new patient and I say arrive. Why does the screen pop up again? It's to confirm the patient's file. Now the patient's not here yet, or he's here but he hasn't filled in his file yet, so I will only arrive then this patient the moment I'm ready to capture his file. Now you do have 2 options in GoodX how to open files. You can go to your MedDeps and open the files there, and you just simply go back to the diary, right click and arrive the patient with the new file. But a typical scenario in how we work on GoodX is the patient is now standing in front of you, so I'm now looking to see if the clerk has got a file on the system, so I'm looking for the clerk, and now I can see yes, there is a few of the clerks in the system, but which one do I'm looking at? There's a Bertus and there's a Bianca and there is a Peter and there is a Pierre. So if he's got a file and he can confirm that is his file, 11 Boom Street with an ID number, then I just don't need to open up a file again for this patient because he just forgot he maybe had a file already here with this doctor. And I just simply select it and I say OK, and the file will just simply change from a new booking to new patient arrived, and is on Dep 60. So the moment that patient has never been here before, like Peter Buerta, and I want to arrive this patient now, I want to open up his new file. And this is where you can see from the manual, I arrive my existing patient, I arrive my new patient, here I create my new data. So here I create a new file in GoodX. So this can be done in 2 places. You can go to your MedDeps and open it there from admittance, or you can go directly in the arrival of the new patient and open up there. It's just depending on how busy practice you might be. Just remember that if you open up your patient's file while arriving and a telephone rings, you cannot do bookings, so please open up 2 diaries. Make sure your 2 diaries are running side to side then, so that you can always just jump between quickly make bookings and opening your files. It's an easy way to manage your time as well. So now I'm looking at the clerk, Buerta Peter, and I can't find his file. He said he's Buerta Peter, so I'm looking at Buerta, and I can see Buerta. I've got John, and I've got here Peter, but not Peter. So I want to open up a file for this Buerta, so now I click on plus. And this is where I add a new data into GoodX. I just simply click on that plus, and the system will then ask me normal data. Now let's say this is a private patient, so I'm going to open up the file manually. I'm going to click on normal data, and whether it's a private patient or a medical aid patient does not matter, it's always a normal data. Do not select a non-medical. A non-medical is for accounts, for companies or other doctors that buying stock or services from the doctor's side. So insurance file, that's obviously from my GP side, that's my life policies or insurance policies, and I need to open up that for Sunlam or Discovery Life or something for that. And my ID is WCA COIDS, is obviously my injury on duty, so my workman's compensation. So this is where I will fill in also the claim numbers, the date of injury, and the injury descriptions. So I will always select normal data if it's not one of those. And now I have the choice to decide, do I want to import this file directly from the medical aid because I have a membership number for him? That's if it's a medical aid patient. Or no, I'm not going to do import because this is a private patient. And this is where I've talked about already the My Grand Central. So if I have an email or an SMS when I book a patient can actually go to My Grand Central on their website or their phones. They can pre-register themselves, and when they walk in at reception, I can just simply import their details if they save it already on My Grand Central. That's a very nice feature for going more paperless in the future, and also getting your patients to actually register themselves before they come in. It saves them time, it saves your reception time for opening of files. Please ask your FCL if you need more information about this My Grand Central, so we can give additional training on it in the future. So now I'm just simply going to say, okay, Peter Buerta walks in. It's the patient has booked. I'm going to arrive this patient. I clicked on the plus. I'm now going to open up his file. So I'm going to just say to normal file. I'm going to say okay. Now it jumps to my new data option. So I just moved from the choose data to new data. It's asking me now for the file number. The file number can be opened in the sense of we can leave the file open, so you fill in your manual file numbers, and that's how you put the file into your cabinet. So it could be in a numerical value or it could be alphabetical. So here I can put in a number series, or you can make this BOT001, or the system can generate automatically the number in a numerical series or alphabetical series. Otherwise, you can just leave it blank, or you fill in your own file number. Surname is for instance Buerta. This is Peter. Title is Mr. My ID number is 55055 556 if I do put in an ID number and that ID number is already on the system, the system will warn you that that ID number already has been opened. So if that happens, cancel the process, go to that file, because if you say continue, you will create a duplicate file for your member on the system. Go through telephone numbers, cell phone numbers, employer note, email addresses, postal addresses, 31 Snyman Street, for instance, that is in Pretoria. And you can even call up a list for that. Copy it over by putting a star on my tab, and I can copy the address over to my street address, next of kin relationship, telephone numbers, medical aid. Now, like I said, this is a private patient, so I'm going to put in a private medical aid. So why do we do this still? I do not select private account, I do not select private company, I select private patient. So the reason for this is there's private rates in your practice. So from this point, we now know we're going to charge private rates for this patient. So that's why we need a medical aid and even a plan for this patient, because if you even are at the dispensary, we can apply different rules for your patients depending on what private patient you're dealing with. And then my medical aid membership number, you can just put in a point, or you can just put in zeros, or whatever information you want. It must be filled in. GoodX will not allow you to move on if some of the information is not filled in. The doctor is your actual treating doctor that is involved. So you select your doctor, and your referral doctor is typically blank, no referral in a GP practice, but it depends on which specialty you might be of how that will be selected. Service center is typically my rooms, but if you travel between a lot of different areas, hospital-wise, rooms-wise for consultation, we can set up here Douglasdale, Ferndale, Four Ways, Pretoria, Centurion, and you can also track on which areas are you treating your patients. Then the person responsible for the account, if not the member, you can also fill in that detail. So I always start with the member first, name, surname, ID, the telephone numbers, the address details, and then the medical aid details. If not a medical aid patient, then it's always a private patient, and I load it as a point. Now I can click on save, and the system will take this member and he will become the first dependent on that patient, on that file. So if it was already an existing file, as you can see, it will just simply open up the details, and I just amend that details as I go along. Otherwise, just confirm all the information is filled in correctly and make sure all the details are correct. And then I just make sure I select in my Peter in this sense, and I click on plus to add family members on this private file. So every time I click on plus, you will go to the left hand side and you fill in the surname again, the date of birth, and all the details required for this patient. They will have their own cell phone numbers, they will have their own email addresses, and even their own addresses, depending on the patient's situation. Remember, there's a private tick here that says private patient. This means it's a family member that's part of the family, but they are not on that medical aid, and they will always be billed as private. So now I can add my dependents as I go along, select the correct dependent, say OK, and I confirm that again, and the system will now, number, as you can see, the system will tell you if something is missing, and that new patient now changes to new patient arrived with the new data number DEB281, for instance. So every time a new patient is booked, there most probably need to be a file that needs to be opened. Manually, I will just simply right click and arrive, and I will click on plus and I will open a file manually. If I need to import it from the medical aid, I will also arrive this patient. I will click on plus, but now I will select the import function. The moment I click on this process, patient validation, and I say OK, and it must be the patient validation, it means we're validating it from the medical aid. That diary new patient means it depends on the data you filled in when you made the booking. So when I click on OK, it will actually ask me what medical aid is this patient on, and I will put in discovery. And then I can select discovery out of the list, so spelling is obviously important. And please look at discovery, and then I must select the plan is on, and that's comprehensive classic acute. And then I must put in my membership number. So this is when I open up a new file, I clicked on plus and I selected import, and I selected patient validation. I put in my patients, my members, medical aid information. The moment I click OK, we do a validation with the medical aid to confirm that the information is available. Now, if you look here on patient validation, dependent data benefits check, if you go into that, you will see that patient validation will bring up this is what will import it into GoodX. And here you can see dependent data options. So the moment I clicked on that OK button, it will show me this validation is valid, so the patient is on the system. And it will show me actually all the cardholder files and that membership. And there's a validate button, a tick box, a tick box, a tick box, and you tick those tick boxes and then you say continue. And then the system will show you here the colors on the next screen. So the green one means the patient's already on the system, it's loaded. Red one means there's a problem, you need to fix it, so I can update it. But when you open up a new file and you filled in the membership details and you clicked on import, it will open up these boxes all in blue, and you tick all of them as import, 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 and you tick the main member that is currently listed as the main member, and then that's usually the first one on the list. It says principal party, and that becomes then the main member in GoodX. So what do we import? And you can see here the name, the surname, the initials, the date of birth, the ID in most cases of the medical aids, and his dependent code. That's what we import from the medical aid. We do not import addresses and telephone numbers. That information you must get from the patient. So please look here at the manual. Obviously this you will see when you are live. So you're more than welcome to talk to your FCL to just guide you through this process. It's difficult to show this on a training system because our training systems are not live entities. We can't validate and import as we love with the medical aids. It will just create a bit of issues. So here on this manual you will see it, the patient validation, dependent data and benefits check, and you're more than welcome also to ask your FCL. But remember, from reception point of view, I should validate and import all new patient files. Any existing patient I should also validate to confirm they're still under medical aids they say they are. Of course, they could have moved to different medical aids, and some patients might drop off certain medical aids and move over to their own medical aids, like students or divorcees or something like that. So please make sure reception knows how to validate any existing files and how to import new files into the system. Okay, so from there I would say okay, and then the system will bring up those 3 blocks or 5 blocks. You tick on the import, you tick the main member, and the system will literally then create the file for you, and you will be on this screen after this process, and you confirm addresses, telephone numbers, and that kind of details. So from a management point of view, admin point of view, I should not get any rejections anymore that says invalid date of birth, invalid patient, patient not found, invalid dependent codes, because reception should have imported the files from the beginning and also validated that information from the beginning. So once that patient is loaded, so if it is an existing file at any stage, if I click here and there's a right bar here, there's my patient validation. So if an existing file, reception can always just simply click on validation and confirm that details with that medical aid again the moment an existing patient walks in. So please make sure that reception knows how to do this and how to access that. On the manual that we show you how to do this, but obviously you will only be able to do this once you go live on your GoodX system. Okay, so that is now from my new patient, book existing patients, arrive existing patients, arrive new patients, create new debtors, add dependents. Like I said, also when you open up your file at any stage, if I go into that file and I can go here to data F9, I can go to the input and I can edit my information at any stage, and I can also click on this patient button here, F11, and I can change or edit any of my patients, and also here I can add new dependents by clicking on the plus, or I can delete or cancel any of my dependents by clicking on the delete option. Change inactive status, you will see you right click here, you say change inactive status, and here I can mark them as deceased or unmedicated. This is how I will remove someone that's not part of that family anymore. And that you do by just simply going into the file. And how do I get to that file at the end of the day? I can stand on this booking and I can go to data F9 here at the top, select my file, go directly to the patient's F11 and right click and change my status of my patient. I can add dependents like this as well, but always remember I can import it again by doing the patient validation functions. I can add dependents in that same way. So at any stage you can go, if a patient is not booked, same thing, you can go to F9, search the member, search the patient, and then just simply go to input or F9 to edit their details. Remember also the advanced search. Here I can search on the patient's name, a partial part of their surname. This is a very powerful search function, and say find. There should be no reason why you can't say you cannot find a patient in the system. With this functionality, you should be able to quickly see them and get them out of the system, because you can search on multiple texts, ID numbers, cell phone numbers, file numbers, even the date of births. You can also switch this to debtors and also search on that same functionality. It's a very powerful search function. If you're not sure if a patient was here before, please use your advanced search function and see if you can find a patient's file. Okay, so that is bookings, add dependents, and now we're going to look at how do I can extend, cancel, move, and copy my appointments depending on the scenarios in the practice. So let's see on that function. So when I'm standing on a booking and I right click, I have appointment options. So there is my cancel, there is my extend, there is my move, and there is my copy. So what do I do here? Cancel is when someone phones in and says, listen, I can't make my appointment, like Peter at 11:45. So I can just simply do it the long way, right click, appointment options, cancel. But as you can see, there's shortcut, so that means I can press delete on the keyboard to access that shortcut. So I just click on cancel. I sure want to cancel this appointment. Yes, and it simply removes it from the diary. Of course, this patient was booked at 11:45. I want to make that time available so I can book someone else at 11:45. If you did not want to delete it, then you will just simply mark it with a different status and book someone at 11:46. So how would I do that? That's a new time slot, as we call it, new time. If I right click also, we talk about a new time slot. So there's a new time button with a new time slot function. You can click on that and I can make a time at 9:46 and book a patient there. So a lot of people ask, how do I quickly fit someone in? I just quickly want to do a blood result with doctor or an x-ray with doctor, or doctor said he must come back tomorrow to quickly fetch his script, but the doctor want to see him first. So I can create a new time slot by clicking on a new time, or right click new time slot to force a new time into GoodX, and then on that time I can actually go and book my patient. So at any time you can do that depending on how you want to operate. Remember, if I delete a patient that was booked and he did not arrive for appointment and I cancelled that appointment, so I pressed the delete option, the system will always ask you a specific question. Are you sure you want to cancel appointment? Yes. Must the appointment be marked as cancelled or not deleted? Yes. And then the system will highlight it with a specific color and it say cancelled, not arrived. Why I want to see those guys? Because they are wasting our time. They made an appointment, they never arrived, so we are losing that time. So I want to filter them out later and see them. It must stand out so I know that patient is giving me problems in that sense. So that's the delete option. So how do I extend my appointments? Extension means my appointment is going to be longer than 15 minutes. So if I made a booking, for instance this one, and I right click on this patient and I go to appointment options and I say extend, the system will ask me with how many time slots do I want to extend this appointment. Let's say this is a first medical or insurance check that I want to do, so I want to add 3 slots. We mean with this 3 15-minute slots. So we've already been booked this patient for 50 minutes, so I'm going to add 45 minutes to change this appointment to a full hour. So immediately this can be done with the bookings as well. So if reception is making a booking at 16:30 and she right clicks and says book patient and she selects Berman, so okay, here is an extend button. So immediately here while making the appointment you can immediately extend it to an hour by adding 3 slots. So you can extend your appointments after the booking, or you can extend your appointments while making a booking. New patients and existing patients. So how do I move an appointment? So now we've cancelled appointments in the future. We've cancelled appointments that was running late, and that's why we'll mark it as cancelled, not arrived. I can extend my appointments with 3 slots to make it a full hour or a half an hour by just adding another 15 minutes. And also remember, you can delete the extensions as well. So if you click on that extension, you can delete that 150-minute slot, making an appointment a bit shorter. So anytime you can delete it, at any time you can extend it. So now patient phones you, listen, I can't make my appointment for today. Can we move it to tomorrow? Yes, you can do that. So if you booked a patient, let's take Gerber for instance, I can say okay, and once I've made that booking and a patient phone says I can't come in today, can you please make my appointment tomorrow? Yes, that's no problem. The long way again, appointment options, and I can click on move, or you can use the basic Windows shortcuts as we call them, the cut and paste. Control X, Control V to paste. So the long way will be move. Are you sure you want to do this? Yes. You will see my mouse turns into an arrow with 3 pages. Then I can go to tomorrow. Okay, so which day, or ma'am, which day? And you can see, okay, let's make it again 15:50. Right click and paste, and the booking is there. If I go back to today, you will see Gerber will be off the diary. She will not be here because I moved it from today to tomorrow. The same principle you can do between different doctors. So if the patient wants to move to another doctor, you can move that patient to another doctor by selecting the right doctor's diary and just move it to that doctor. You can also use the calendars to move it ahead for the future. Same thing if you have treated a patient and the patient says, doctor said I must come back in 2 weeks. I can also copy this appointment options, copy, and it will look like nothing is happening, but then I go to 2 weeks ahead, the 14th, the 21st, what time, 9:45 again, right click paste, and we've copied that appointment for you for that time slot as well. So the patient will still be on today's date, but also 2 weeks ahead. You can only do copy one at a time, but this you can quickly do by just changing your weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, and quickly paste for your patient for follow-up visits or something like that. Okay, so that is my cancel, that is my move, and that is my extend. Remember, there is a multi-diary view as well. So on the multi-diary view, we mean by this, we can add 2 doctors together, Dr. Nemo, Dr. Molefe, or 3 doctors. And if a patient was booked here as well, the same principles apply here. Everything we've done now, you can book patients, extend patients, delete patients, copy patients, arrive patients in the same way. And you can also move them between doctors in the same way. This is a very nice feature. If you don't want to work with 3 different diaries, I can quickly just move that doctor patient over to that doctor by cut and paste like that. Same with the copy process as well, and I should be able to just quickly move my patients. And we call this the multi-doctor view. So this is where you can see multiple doctors on the same screen. Obviously, the bigger screen you have at reception, the more advanced this function will be for you in the Inactive day. So now let's just look back at our manual. So we've looked at cancel, move, copy, range of appointments, and other appointments. Let's quickly look at that. So what do we mean by that? Range of appointments and my other appointments. So now we've made bookings for my patients, new and existing. New patient bookings, existing patient bookings is booked. The moment I walk in, they are arrived. I can cancel them by deleting them, I can extend them, I can move them, I can copy them. Okay, now we can actually manage my bookings. But what about my doctor's time? And this is why we said this is a full management system in Inactive. I'm not only just making bookings, but I'm also managing my doctor's time. If I'm managing my doctor's time and I'm managing my patients, I'm actually managing the practice. So just bookings is not just picking up the phone anymore, making a booking. This diary is a tool that you can use to manage your patients. I can from here see my bookings, manage their details, edit the information, validate them with the medical aids, see what is outstanding. I can invoice them from here, I can do their receipts from here, I can go into their accounts, I can generate statements, I can search my files, I can send my claims to the medical aid, and I can generate a final statement. All of that from the diary. So a lot of functions can be done from here, and that's why we want you to use the diary to its full potential. So how do I book out my doctor's lunch? I'm going to do both of this. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to talk about other appointments. So other appointments is my reps, my hospital round. So that's in the morning rounds if your doctor's seeing patients in hospital. Actual theatre for my specialists or doctors doing anaesthetists or assisting in theatre. So depending on that. And then we talk about other appointments and we talk about personal appointments. Just depends on how you typically use this. Personal, this is the doctor's leave or his holidays or something like that, and other could be his seminars or training sessions or something like that. He's working but it's not available, but personal is not there, he's on leave or something like that. So I'm going to use other now, for instance, in that sense. So I'm going to go to 1 o'clock, I'm going to right click and I'm going to say other appointments, other, or so let's say personal, doesn't matter, and I'm going to say this is lunch. Just fill in that and I'm going to say okay. So is lunch, oh that lunch, I can just double press F1 on that, just want to confirm that, is F2 and just fix that, press F2 to edit that. F1 is for the patient, F2 is to edit my booking or edit my data details. You can also see that in the manual. Right click appointment options. You can also cancel this, extend this, move this and copy this. So this is what I want to do. I'm going to extend this time. So I'm going to say extend this for 45 minutes, so that's my lunch time for doctor. So this is how I book out, for instance, my lunch, but now I have to do this on every day. I now go to next day, right click, other appointment, extend for 45 minutes, go to the next day, go to the next. This is going to take forever to book out doctor's lunch for the whole year. And this is where we go to other appointments here at the top menu, and where we talk about the range of appointments. And here we go to personal or other. And here I can go for instance to other and say, listen, okay, but as from tomorrow till the end of the year, from 1300 to 1345, override all appointments. Be very careful of that, because if a patient was booked at 1 o'clock, it will override that booking. So do not override. The ideal will be to use always ask what to do, but otherwise do not override. So if there's any bookings already made, you do not override them. Doctor's going to be on lunch on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, not Fridays, because Fridays anyway leave at 3 o'clock. So now I'm going to say lunch, and I'm going to say, okay, now the system will book out his lunch for the whole year. So this you can use for hospital rounds, this you can use for theatre. There's different ways how you can manage this. So if I now go to tomorrow, 1 o'clock, lunch is booked out. If I go 2 months ahead and I go to Wednesday, lunch is booked out, except for my Fridays. So now I click on now and I come back to today, and now doctor's leaving, for instance, at Friday at 3 o'clock, like I said. So now I can go to Friday and I say, okay, he's leaving anyway at 3, that's why he doesn't have lunch. I'm going to book other again and say home. And I'm going to other appointments, put in home. And I click on rooms. So okay. So now it's booked, but now I'm going to press F3 and say now to the end of the day. So F3 is my extend, the long way, right click, appointment options, extend, now to the end of the day, and it will book doctor out for the rest of the day. So this function you will also use by booking it on 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, and you extend that whole booking for the end of the day to book doctor out is not available for that whole day. So that's how you will cross out your book, as we call it in the practices, where you just put in a stripe through the manual diary. So this is how you will book out your doctor sessions or his leaves or his lunch, depending on how you want to do this. The other appointments, I'm not going into these details. You're more than welcome to go look for the manual for this. It's for my reps, my hospital rounds, my theatres, and my personal. For the theatre, also very nice, the theatre bookings. If I do have theatre in that sense, I can book out 2 ways my theatre. It's actually a third option here for my theatres, but I'm right clicking and say, listen, okay, this is at Wilgers Hospital. It is in a hospital, and this is theatre, so here we can add a standard theatre as well, and I can just simply okay, and I just extend it for, let's say, something like that. So that just shows me theatre is booked out, or doctor can actually, or reception, if we do book these theatre sessions in version number 8, I can actually book that theatre, put in this is at Wilgers, and we're going to do a hip replacement, for instance, and in that hospital, and I can actually link it directly to Irma. And I can also extend that for at least that time. So now a patient is actually linked to that theatre booking, and I can see who the patient is and what's currently outstanding. So you're more than welcome to book out just a date to say there's theatre, or link your bookings to your actual theatre booking. If you are a specialist and you want more advanced functions, there's an actual theatre surgery session where we set up your sessions, how long the sessions will be, from 8 to 2, or the whole day, or only the mornings. So we have a start time and end time. Here we will load all your patients on this, and you will actually have the functionality to load the hospital that was involved, what procedure was involved, how long that operation will be, what instruments, prostheses were used, what is the risk, is he a bleeder or diabetic, codes, and from here we generate a theatre list Excel printout that can go to the actual theatre as the hospital or clinic requires it. So you're more than welcome to look into that in the future as well, and just ask us for that. So that's other appointments, and that was my theatre bookings also here. Please look at that theatre bookings. Right click like I showed to you, and there's other theatre bookings. You can book it out in that way, or link your patient directly to that theatre. If you're a surgeon, we've got an actual theatre list that generates an Excel for your actual theatre so they can book your patients. Okay, walk-in emergencies, I've covered that with the bookings there at the top. Change status of appointment, and remember this is what we've done so far, and this is where we talk about the patient was booked. So the moment the patient walks in, I arrive my patient, and the moment I'm going to bill my patient later in the next sessions, the patient's going to be untreated. So there's always going to be those three options. So remember this, if a patient is already booked, I can always go to F9 to change the details, and I can also press F1 to change the patient's details, or press F2 to change the member's details. And remember, when I arrive, the patient validate the patient's details. When I book new patients and they arrive, import them from the medical aids to make sure I've got the correct information. So that was my theatre bookings, patient validations, make patients inactive. I showed you that. Go into the F9 function, go to the patient screen and just mark them as change the status. And also edit my patient and edit my data. It's just what I've done now. Again, go through the F9 functionality or press the F1 or F2 if you're standing on the booking. So that is how I would change my patient's details and load all the statuses. Remember the right click and go to appointment and cancel, extend, move, copy. There's shortcut keys. Make a note of these shortcut keys so you know how to access these functionalities. I can see a lot of information from my system here and I just need to know how to access them. Okay, now we go over to diary administration. This is just to finalize the bookings thing on the diary. Of course, it's almost time we do take a break and go to the next session of the clinical side of this. But that will be a fast session because the clinical and the standard debtors app is not that advanced as the web. If you are a doctor and want to focus on the clinical side, please contact our GoodX marketing so you can look at the web application for that. But I will show the basic functionalities that's already part of the system in this clinical function. So let's look at the data administration, file cover sheet, multi-doctor view. I actually did show you this. So what is the file cover sheet from here? So if I go to my booking, at any time I've generated my patient information, I go down, I can see here, I can print my labels. I have a time slot history, but on the appointment history, appointment options, you will have your file cover sheet. So this is the form that we can generate after you've opened your file with all the members' details or your dependents' details with a signature and a date. This is very handy, so your patient you can print this, the patient can sign this and go into the file. There's also a very nice form to send to any physio or any other doctor that requires your patient's information. So that's your file cover sheet. I showed you the multi-doctor view where I can go into the multi-doctors and I can actually make my appointments there as required. Use of the sidebar on the right hand side when you make an appointment. And on the right hand side is your sidebar. From here I see my member's name, his account number, the patient details, his age, the medical aid is on. I can send SMS from here, I can send an email from here. That's a plain email without any attachment. I can email his statement from here and I can do his validations. I can do a sync write with the patient with his My Grand Central details and update and get information. I can see the reason of his appointment. I can change his appointment type here if I need to change that, and I can also change the service center. From here I can access his estimates, his clinical information, his patient documents, and I can also see what is outstanding. And the sidebar will also give me a nice tool here, my tasks, and it can show me the waiting list Don't get confused with the waiting room. The waiting room shows me how many patients are waiting for the doctor, and this I see here in the top left corner with the button here, waiting room, and I can decide here which patients goes in first and second and third. That's a nice feature if you're doing a walk-in practice. But the waiting list is there for my patients that phone in, I'm booked in full, and they're waiting for a cancellation. So this is a very nice tool to put on my patients here who is waiting for cancellation. So whenever there's a cancellation, I can just simply select the time and right click and book that patient directly onto the diary, and it will remove it from the waiting list. Okay, so reminder SMS, the waiting room, the theatre surgery, and this is where I explained to you also. This was that surgery list here. This is my theatre list that I set up from 9 to 12 or the full day, and I showed you already here I can generate my theatre session. I can generate an Excel that I can send to the actual theatre or hospital to book my theatres for those nights. This works very well for my specialists, my surgeons that want to generate different theatres, and here we set up your different hospitals as well, so you will have a theatre session for every hospital you do theatre in. Dentists also, this can work very nicely for day clinics or small procedures in that sense. Print a diary at any time. You can also print a diary, and I've spoken now about the waiting list as well. The waiting list to the waiting room. Don't get confused between the two. Waiting room is a list of all the arrived patients, and the waiting list is all the patients that is waiting for a cancellation. Okay, and then the colors and the statuses I will get to now. I just want to show you quickly the print diary and the debtor documents. So from here, I showed you now the theatre list. Also on the right hand side, you always will have your sidebar. There is your patient docs. So when I click on a file and I click on patient docs, it will open up the document manager. From here I can upload anything that is scanned or emailed to me in PDF or electronic format. So here I can add the scanned ID, the scanned membership card, the terms and conditions forms, the consent form for theatre, any other reports that comes in from doctors or x-rays or pathology reports. I can click here and say book patient. I go to my library, I go to my documents, I can select the file that I want. Just to see if I have something that I can just work with here, for instance. I can take an image, upload it, and say book new document, and that image is loaded now on this patient's document. And when I just double click on it, it will just simply open up again in Word or Excel or PDF, depending on what kind of information I've got. So this is the first part, getting to paperless. Anything that comes in I can add, and this is also where I can get to data documents. If I right click on the actual booking, it's the same feature as this patient documents here on the right hand side. Upload any of the documentation that was done via that information. SMSs also, remember I can send an SMS from here. Otherwise I can send my multi-SMS emails on the administration there at the top. This is my reminder SMS, so I can select an SMS. For this doctor, show me all the appointments for tomorrow. And I say, okay, for tomorrow on this doctor, filter it. There's all my appointments, the ones that got a cell phone number. And then I'm going to click on send. And then I select my SMS template that we will fill in the date and the time. And the SMS will go out to the patient telling him of his appointment. So that's my SMS appointment reminders. You're more than welcome to start look at our colors. Make sure the colors are set up, and also remember that you can also update your operation list and your appointment type colors as well as we load as appointments. And these appointment types we can add also to the system. Just talk to FCL to help and assist you with that. So that's for our diary administration. There's also birthday SMS list that you can also send out birthday SMSs to your patients. So that you can also get from the diary. So you will see here from reports, there is a birthday list. So from here I can send out SMSs for my patients for their birthdays for today. So every day I can send out reminder SMSs, and every day I need to go into the birthday list, generate a list, and then send out the SMSs. Yeah, at any time then, if you feel like, you can print the diary out, and it can be given to the doctor or just made as a manual copy if you know you're going to have power failures or something like that. Please remember that you can also do a search here. By doing the search, I can search for any patient that was booked or booked in advance. That's your typical patient that says they phoned you, I've got a follow-up appointment somewhere in July, but I can't remember the date. This is a very nice tool getting to that information. Okay, there's a lot of other functionalities here. We can't go through all of them. Please make sure you go through the manual and make sure you're up to date what you can do here. Remember, your task list is also available from here to help you with that. There's your birthdays as well, and your search functions. Print your diary. Remember the range of appointments, and remember the right click activates all the functions you need. Notebook, SMSs, emails, documents, clinical information, labels, printouts of the file cover sheet, cancel, extend, move, copy. All you need will be available here. Okay, we're going to take a break now before we start with the next session. That's the clinical information. So once we're done with that, we will probably move over into the billing and billing corrections. And then we most probably will have lunch after the clinical at 12:30. We will just see what session will be being before or after that, and then we will run through it from there. Please make sure you just know how to get to your learning center again. We went now through our appointments and diary administration. The next sessions will cover now the clinical info and the billing. Thank you very much. We will see you in a few minutes' time.